You can find the video version of this episode at mountaintoppodcast.com/YouTube.
Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
Greetings, gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. I am your host, Scott McKay. You can find me all over social media, TikTok, on X, on YouTube, and on the other one that I always forget, at Scott McKay, and at Real Scott McKay on Instagram and Threads. But gentlemen, please don't use Threads. It's just a cesspool. It's awful. It's just a bunch of people bitch slapping each other, and just, I don't know about you, but I like to go through my life bitch slap free. Now that we're doing video here to go with the audio, and I have a great pace for audio podcasting, if you guys haven't noticed already. So if you're listening to the audio feed of this, you're probably doing yourself a big favor. But hey, YouTube is present. They're taking over. And so, hey, here we are looking all spiffy on Riverside FM doing our podcast. And accidentally, totally, this is a complete coincidence. I'm completely honest with you. That's the way it is. Dr. Laura Sokola is my returning guest, who, on the other hand, looks great on video, as you can see. She is a veteran of Riverside FM, so she's been like talking me through the baby steps here of getting started. But I think we're doing pretty good. I mean, we're looking all decked out here with our frame that says Mountaintop Podcast and everything. Last time when you were on, first of all, welcome, Laura. We're glad to have you back.
It's so great to be back, Scott. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, for sure. How do you feel about being what I first termed crash test dummy, and then you were looking for a more complimentary term, so I went with guinea pig, and you're like, I don't think that's the one. I said, all right, well, how about test pilot? That sounds really brave.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So test pilot is. You are usually a co-host. Now you are my co-test pilot. So there's two of us in this cockpit, which is probably appropriate. Last time we talked about your TED Talk. I sort of hijacked the show.
You know, if something's going to get hijacked, that's the way to do it. It was a great conversation, which is why I'm back again. I had so much fun the first time around.
Especially if you're co-pilots in the cockpit. That's the only way to get hijacked. You don't want to go old school with the hijacking if you're two pilots in the cockpit. So keeping it virtual, right?
Yes.
We're going to talk about talking like a leader, because last time we got just mightily derailed talking about your TED Talk, which has got 7 million views. I think it's always more fun to have more views than dollars in your bank account. That's, I think, what we're all shooting for. I don't know if that's the case for you.
I might challenge that. Give me $7 million and let me compare.
And you won't need YouTube anymore. You'll have the 7 million, large. There you go. But it was such a great show because you were talking about how your name matters.
Yes.
And after the hundreds of shows, yeah, I mean, hey, I'd like to have as many dollars in my bank account as I have episodes under my belt. That'd be great. 500 sounds good. And it was a great show because it was so original. But, the guys watching and listening are probably going to be greatly entertained by this. That wasn't the plan. I completely, knocked you off the rails. And it was supposed to be about talking like a leader, which admittedly is a fantastic topic. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let me formally introduce you to these guys.
Sounds
Dr.
good.
Laura Sokola is from Philadelphia, home of the Super Bowl champs. Good for you. Not next year. My Ravens are coming up I-95 for you. Okay. You mean you weren't teaching them how to talk like a leader and that translating onto field success?
Hey, if there's a way to take credit for it, I will send them my bill.
Being a special consultant for the Philadelphia Eagles would have at least as nice a ring to it as leadership, communication, and influence coach, right? Yeah, okay. So now you have a special way of kind of helping people wrap their head around what you do for a living. And you just said that before. Could you repeat that for these guys?
Sure. So, I mean, by background, Scott, I'm a cognitive linguist. That's the PhD part. So my job really is to work with leaders and help them close the 3 inches between your brain and your mouth.
That's something like a cunning linguist, is it?
That is a different skill.
Okay. Gotcha. for a different podcast.
Most definitely.
So you're closing the 3-inch gap between your right here and right
brain
here.
and your mouth. Yeah. Did you ever have one of those moments, Scott, where you're talking and you suddenly think to yourself, that sounded better in my head?
Never. But I've had moments where I've been urged to close this 3-inch gap. That's called my mouth.
So
just by
somebody
itself.
else gave you the benefit of the doubt, perhaps, that what came out of your mouth may have sounded better before it came out.
That's really an interesting take, because I might be a total sick puppy and a weirdo, but it's usually the other way around for me.
How so?
Well, the first time I spit out a thought, it's usually the best perfectly worded version of it ever. So if I don't write it down, it's going to sound awkward the second and third time. You know what it's exactly like? Back in the day when we used to record voicemails, and you didn't know whether you were going to hit like the 2 or be able to hit, pound 2 and erase and re-record, and it would just send it, which has become meme worthy in movies, right? It's like a Hollywood
it's very much
staple.
Right out of Swingers.
Yeah, exactly. But it works for him in the end anyway. So I'm one of those guys who was trained in that generation that I better get this right the first time. And the incredibly funny part, at least to me, because I like to make fun of myself, I'm a self-deprecating sort of dude when necessary, is I could never do that. Now I could sit here on a podcast and, be pithy and witty and all that stuff. But when it comes to leaving a voicemail or recording your own voicemail prompt, right?
Yep.
No way. It wasn't going to happen the first time. And I don't know if you're like me, but the more takes I have to attempt, the worse it gets. Yeah. Just I start pressuring. Yeah, you got it.
Completely.
Exactly right. But no, go ahead and see, as well as I know how to talk, I can't even pronounce the word elaborate. That's why I'm going to let you elaborate instead of me. Go ahead and tell us a little bit more, or a lot bit more, about what inspired your book, Speaking to Influence, Mastering Your Leadership Voice, and talk to me about your version of the story in terms of really tightening what you say and wishing it would come out different. That's all very interesting.
Sure. You can only go so far up the career ladder based on your technical expertise, right? Whether you're an engineer, you're in finance, you're in design, you're in something else, then you hit what I call a linguistic glass ceiling. And if you want to get above that ceiling into the higher leadership, the more executive ranks, the senior spaces, then there's this lateral shift that you have to make. And it's no longer about how well you execute the tasks that you've been priding yourself on your skills for so long. Now, suddenly it's about how you communicate and how you lead those people who are now doing the job that you were doing for so long and everybody else. So maybe you were in finance, but now you have to lead the finance people and communicate with the tech people and with the sales people and with the marketing and whoever else and the HR people. You got to be able to translate that genius, that vision, that expertise so that no matter what kind of person you're talking to, they get it because they don't think like you think. So can you translate it, or are you going to sit there and keep staring at each other and going, why don't you get it? I said it in a way that was perfectly clear. What's wrong with you?
What's your problem?
That doesn't get you past that linguistic glass ceiling and into the senior ranks.
Do you remember the Chi-Chi's restaurant chain?
Yes.
They were wonderful if you were a gringo and lived up north because you thought you were eating Mexican food, but really you were just eating really delicious Mexican version of Olive Garden, basically.
Got it.
It was tasty, but it wasn't Mexican. It was one step up from Taco Bell. But I remember when Chi-Chi's opened in 1983 in Baltimore.
I can't believe you actually remember the year. That's impressive.
There's a reason why.
Okay.
It was the only Mexican restaurant in Baltimore.
Got it.
No one had ever eaten Mexican food before. That was the first. The lines were around the corner. So it was wildly popular. So popular that I thought I would be popular if I went and got a job there. Right.
Okay.
Well, it was my first job ever, basically. I worked as a busboy or a service assistant, they used to call it, an SA, back of the house called it that, at Chi-Chi's in Timonium, Maryland, which has been razed and it's probably now a car dealership now. It's already been torn down. Terrible. And they gave me a boss who was hired because I think at the time she was probably the only Mexican lady in the entire city of Baltimore. So she got the job, cultural appropriation. Let's hear it for that. And I remember one time she got mad at us and fired a couple of us because we wouldn't do what she told us to. We wouldn't do what she told us to do. But what she didn't realize, and we finally, as sheepish as we were, went to the GM and said, well, she sort of yells at us in Spanish. And no hablamos, And when we said no hablamos, because I actually was taking Spanish in school. That's where part of the brownie points were going to be, because I could come back and give reports to all the cute girls in my Spanish class about what it's like to work in basically ersatz, Mexico. And he was like, well, if you can say no hablamos, you can listen to what she knows, what she's telling you. And then we were like, no, we really can't. But she kept her job and we didn't. So that's my Chi-Chi story. But, that's really ineffective to go and talk to someone in a language they don't understand and expect them to follow you. That would classify as poor leadership, don't you think?
Well, and that's literal and figurative. So if you're a finance person and you're talking to the engineers in all sorts of finance detail and you're going, and they're not all excited about the details as you are, it's like, okay. Or if you're in tech and you're all lost in the features and all the bells and whistles of this, and somebody in sales is going, I care about this. Why? I just need like 4 features. I needed to do this. Just tell me what button to push. Don't tell me why it works. I don't care why it works. So can you translate to the people in a way that they will understand it? And it's their job to listen. Look, communication is two-way. So you have to be an open-minded listener, but at the same time, you got to recognize, okay, how do I make sure that I'm speaking in a way that they will understand?
That all makes perfect sense. Even if it's not something we're actively self-aware enough to be doing in our daily lives right now, it sounds perfectly loud and clear to me that the point you're getting across makes sense. What also is loud and clear to me right now is guys drilling in the background in your house.
Can you hear it?
This is going to be a really nice test, actually. Usually I'm really fastidious about this.
I was afraid of that. If we need to reschedule, we can reschedule.
No.
Okay.
Nay. What we're going to do is we're going to test Riverside's magic dust ability, because it's got this AI overlay that's supposed to make you sound like you're on NPR or something liberal like that. But what I'm hearing is the drilling because your HVAC is out, and woman's got to have air conditioning.
Only scheduled yesterday. My husband told me at 5 o'clock yesterday, oh, by the way, the guys are going to come tomorrow to put in a new air conditioning unit. And I went, you're telling me now? I've got 2 podcasts on the books for tomorrow afternoon.
You're remarkably perky and in a wonderful mood for someone who's been told their HVAC system has to be replaced. that would knock me off my game for a few weeks, grumbling about that one.
Fortunately, it's not going to be, God willing, it's not going to be a few weeks. Don't put that out into the universe, Scott. I will not appreciate that.
Okay.
Hopefully it's just one and done. We get it done today and all systems are go for tomorrow.
Well, see, you might really have $7 million in your bank account if you're not worried about replacing the HVAC system. The rest of us peasants, if the HVAC has to be replaced in our house, we're eating ramen noodles for 6 months.
Well, I wasn't happy about it. I'm still not happy about that. There are plenty of other things I would like to do for that money, but thank God it's not a $7 million source.
If I ever went into another career and I was selling things, because I know you're talking to the sales guys out here as well as the engineers and everybody else. But first of all, as a little bit of a tangent, if you're a sales guy and you don't know how to talk like a leader, you're not going to be leading the sales team ever.
Well, it goes with any division.
Right. It goes for any division, but you're also not going to be closing a lot of deals.
That's correct.
And park that thought for a second. But, I hear a lot of drilling in the background, and every time I hear drilling, I think of the movie American Sniper. So that's the mental image I've got right now as we go through this podcast. So let's hope I can stay equally perky.
And that nobody comes busting through my door with one of those drills. So at least now I've got a witness.
Well, you didn't narc to the American soldiers as an Iraqi, did you?
No, not that. Nope. There's.
I don't think you're set up for that. No. Okay. All right. So what you're talking about in terms of talking like a leader is all very objective so far. Now, you've kind of hinted that there's a subjective side to it.
Sure.
Yeah. So, back in my day, when I used to work for Lucid Technologies, that's how long ago it was. We used to bring very, very smart people in from Bell Labs, Sheldon Cooper IQs who really had no social skill. And I could go on and on with stories about what it was like just to hang out with some of these guys. It was crazy. Sometimes it was creepy. Okay. And they would get together with the guys who were the brainiacs over at SBC at the time, now back being AT&T, standing in front of millions of dollars worth of computers and networking systems, and they would talk shop with each other. And they were able to understand each other. I mean, they were probably their own little echo chamber of people who actually got each other on planet Earth. So it was like a happy dance when they were together, right? Me, I got paid more than those guys. Why? Because what you're talking about. I actually, in my first online dating profile ever, when I still worked there, they would ask you these basic questions that you were expected to answer, like a 5th grade essay, exciting times in the online dating world. And everybody's had generic cookie cutter, who am I and what am I looking for? So I said, I want to be different. I understand I got to stand out. And I put, my job is to translate engineerish into English for decision makers. And, women would ask me, what do you mean by that? And that's exactly what I mean by that. I would sit in those meetings and buy them lunch. And these guys were like, why is this guy getting paid so much just to buy lunch and smile and wear a tie? Because I would go back to the guys who were going to pull the trigger on the actual deal and tell them everything that happened in that meeting in terms they could understand and how it was going to increase the profit for SBC in the future if they went with our product. And these guys would be like, oh, McKay, I'm so glad you showed up and made that all clear for me. I feel so much better now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They would thank me profusely for articulating that information to them in terms they could understand. So what you're talking about is not to be underestimated. It's extremely powerful.
No, but you can underestimate it if you want to stay where you are and not progress in your career and knock yourself out.
Exactly. But it is a skill. You have to learn it.
Yes. And, I hate the term soft skills because the irony is soft skills are hard. Difficult. There's nothing easy about them, which is why I have a job, and at least some of us are happy about that. But you got to
pay for that HVAC system.
Got to pay for that HVAC system, that's for sure. But you mentioned a whole bunch of things that I just jotted down. The objectivity versus subjectivity. The universal laws of physics are kind of objective; they happen, but what they look like in different contexts changes, right? So, when you're talking about, the guys who are scary smart, who are coming in and need to learn to translate. I mean, I like to call myself a recovering academic. I never intended to be an executive coach. I didn't even know that was a thing until, an opportunity came across my desk 15 years ago or so. But coming out, I was a professor. So that was my world, the academic space. It was like they beat into my head for a decade how to write, how to speak. It's like if half of your words didn't have at least 4 syllables in it, you weren't cut out for this world. So you gotta keep... you had to write in a way that was publishable in the whatever journals. So this was a badge of honor that I had earned, that I could write like them, talk like them, be part of those conversations. Like you talk about those physicists or whoever they were, those engineers they could talk to each other. No one else understood them, but they got it. And that's where I was coming from. So, but when I shifted into the business world, like what people would get when I first started talking was like, okay, Laura, we've learned one thing. You're smart. That doesn't help us.
So in other words, you had Salman Rushdie as your dating coach, and as your writing coach and speaking coach, not Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah, it was just I had to learn to translate, and it was in some ways it was painful because it's like you just spent 10 years learning how to do this, and now you're in a new audience that says, "Yeah, we kind of don't like it." So
we don't like having to carry our pocket thesaurus with us everywhere we go, Sokola.
Exactly. And I'm going, well, what do you mean you don't have this vocabulary? Why don't you have this vocabulary? And they
how obstreperous of them to make that
exactly. I don't want to obfuscate the meaning all the time. You should just have the sesquipedalian available. So I had to learn, and it's not about dumbing it down. It's about, and here's one of the most counterintuitive points that I can offer, is that the best way to make people think you are smart is to be able to explain your point in ways that are so crystal clear to them that they go, oh, that makes sense, and it makes them feel smart. If you can make them feel smart through the way that you communicate with them, they will think you are smart. And that's really not as easy to do as most people would think.
Well, you know what analogy comes to mind immediately?
What's that?
Is a absolute world-class athlete.
How
It
so?
depends on the sport, but a world-class athlete can make an incredibly difficult activity look easy,
Yes.
like figure skaters and motocross
Ballroom
racers,
dancing. Here's an analogy for your
ballroom
guys out
dancing.
there
Yeah.
because, I love to dance. In my single days was doing a lot. Swing dance was my favorite, Lindy Hop and stuff. Salsa is second. I am not an
But then
actual
you got married and all that went out the window.
Well, then I moved to the burbs where they didn't have the
Oh, okay.
the
Gotcha.
access
Okay.
anymore. Unfortunately,
Got
that's one of the things that I miss. But the
All right.
originally it was kind of funny because as a woman, you generally are the follow on the dance floor. The guy's supposed to lead. That's just the way it goes. And I was a little miffed by that dynamic at first. I'm like, what are we still in the 50s? But I actually learned to like it because it's the one place in the world where I didn't have to think. I didn't have to make decisions. I just got to enjoy the ride. But what I realized was that no matter how novice or intermediate, whatever I was, the difference between a woman who can dance in those kinds of partner dancing and a woman who can't is a good lead. Because I could dance with a guy who I'd never met before in a dance style foxtrot or something where I'd had all of 3 experiences and didn't know beyond step number 2. But if he was a good lead, I could follow him. It was intuitive. It was easy. And people were like, oh my gosh, you're really good at this. And I went, actually, well, thank you. But no, he's a really good lead. He could translate what he needed me to do. And I could understand just through the body language what it was doing. He was really good at translating that, at communicating through the nonverbals. And that's what it took. He made me feel smart. He made me look and feel like I knew what I was doing. And that was great. Those are the kinds of people you want to dance with.
Well, I would argue that men are crappy at dancing unless they know how to lead. And that women,
style.
well, I guess it does, but in general, women are able to dance with a man who can lead. And I don't think men can just get out there and dance even if the woman leads them. I think there's something primal there.
Yes. Well, because the man's if you're supposed to lead, you have to know what you're doing for yourself and then know how to translate what
Right.
you have to know what you want your partner to do and be able to convey it. And that's tough. I think it is definitely harder on the partner dance floor, not like club dancing where everybody's just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
I'm clueless on that front. But the
Ironically, because that's the easy part.
Not to me. See, that's where I feel
Okay.
self-conscious because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the intuition for it. I don't have the natural gift. But on a partner dance floor, big band and swing or whatever it is, that's a lot of fun. But I don't have to think about it. I could just go with the guy. And if he's an elementary dancer, okay, we'll do basic steps. If it's with somebody who really knows what they're doing, we can have so much fun and it's challenging, but I can feel like I'm a lot better than I am. You guys definitely, if you're a lead on the dance floor, it is a much harder place to be because you have to know what you want both people to do and be thinking 2 steps ahead. That's definitely tougher.
Well, for example, a very, very visceral general example is when men and women hold hands. I don't think we think about it much, but men almost always take the overhand position and women take the underhand position. I've only seen one couple in my entire life walking hand in hand where it was the opposite. One.
But you know why?
Well, because the man's leading the woman.
Because he's taller. It's really hard for me. My husband's significantly taller than I am. If I try to put the overhand position, my shoulder and my elbow have to go up like this because his hand is up higher than mine. It's like if a kid is holding an adult's hand, it's not about who's leading who necessarily. It's not physically comfortable. You can't reach. If you try to hold your kid's hand who's shorter than you and you do the underhand,
Yeah,
you can't do it.
but it's so universal. I mean,
Yes,
I don't want to get into an argument about it, but I've just never seen
If
the
2
only
people
couple
are
I've ever
equal
seen.
height, then it
Well,
doesn't matter. But
I've had that happen a lot because I'm not a very tall guy.
Well, there you go.
Never been an issue. But I'll tell you what is an issue is when you're holding hands in one of those, whoops, let's table that literally for the next one.
Okay.
I'm like you, I'm from the East Coast, so I talk with my hands, especially now that we're on video. And so I just knock something over on my desk. That'll come through nicely, especially on audio. But, I've gone to a lot of church services at evangelical churches in my day. And you get into those weird prayer circles where everybody holds hands and prays. And you always have 2 men standing next to each other, forced to hold hands, and they're both fighting for that overhand. They're fighting for it. And the only couple I've ever seen actually opposite, she was owning that guy. She was wearing the pants in that relationship. It was like, come here, follow me, let's do this. And he was like, yes, dear, with his tail between his legs. So all of that's long for, I understand that if you're in a leadership position, how you affect that leadership has to seem natural, and it has to seem like it comes easy to you. The phrasing of it that just keeps coming to mind.
Easy, but it does have to just be clear.
It has to look
really
easy.
Conveyed.
It has to be. It has to be unforced.
Certainly not look awkward. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like I was going to say, the phrasing that comes to mind for me is it has to be confidence inspiring.
Yes.
Which leads me to my next question, and I'm not sure whether you're going to take this, but it's up to you.
I'm braced. Okay.
It's okay. It's not going to be anything scary. Not like the drilling. You're talking a lot about very objective ways to talk to people, make it sound simple. And another thing I would add to making people sound smart by helping convey perhaps complex or complicated thoughts in simple language is anytime you make someone feel better about themselves, there's a trait reversal mechanism where they think you're that person too. So the secret to being a cool guy is to make everybody else feel cool. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people fumble that the same way they fumble trying to be the smart guy. Mm-hmm. You don't bully people into submission with your brain power and make them think you're smart. They'll think you're an idiot, or they'll wish you were an idiot. So they'll project that upon you.
Well, they'll just recognize, I think most people realize when you're trying too hard to prove that you're smarter than everybody else or whatever. It's like, dude, what are you compensating for? Are you really that insecure on some other aspect of life that you just need to keep reminding us all semi-passive aggressively that you have this, that, or the other thing? Okay, stuffed shirt, do me a favor, take it someplace else.
A key earmark of that, right, would be the person who uses those big 25-cent words incorrectly. Right. My style is pervasive, that kind of thing, like Mike Tyson. But anyway, the cool guy will make other people around him or her, cool gal too, right, feel cool, especially children. Like, oh, that is the coolest bike I've ever seen, man. I wish I had a bike that cool, right? Mm-hmm. That's always the cool dad. So anyone who makes people feel better about themselves seems better to the people they're affecting that emotion in. Mm-hmm. So everybody who goes around, and a lot of men are guilty of this, having a pissing contest with other guys and, playing one-upmanship. Well, that's nothing. I used to do this and I'm better than you. They just come off like a douche. Douchebags to me are best defined as people who think they're cool when they're not. That has fit every douchebag person I've ever met.
And tries to prove it to everybody else at the same time.
Awful. Yeah. Terrible. So, lest I come off that way, I want to ask you this next question.
I'll let you know.
I'm the host, damn it. It's my show.
Know.
All right. So, no, you're doing great. You're very cool. I like you, and very smart and good looking too. So, I mean,
I think that's why they gave me the degree. It wasn't really because if I, wrote anything useful.
Well, I was just hoping to come off in all those ways by saying so. I was eating my own dog food over here, which is a terrible image for a video podcast. Won't happen. Don't throw milk bones at me. It ain't going to happen, Captain. All right. So, like I said, we were talking about this being very objective. It's the words you choose to say, making it simple. Hemingway versus Salman Rushdie. And yet I would hope and trust that there's a huge, big old subjective side of this also.
Yes. So what's
how you carry yourself, etc.
Sure. Well, and beyond that, honestly, what's objective are the simple principles of things like don't talk over people's heads. Don't try to prove that you're smarter than they are. Don't, make sure that you're translating your argument, your rationale, your expertise in ways that they can understand. Those are all basic, universal, objective principles of good communication, of good leadership. But all the rest is subjective. So, that's the finesse part, is understanding. And we tend to, I hear a lot of false binaries, places where we pigeonhole ourselves and we end up limiting our own success because we just stuff like, well, I can be nice or I can be strong. and I tried being the other one and it didn't work, and that's why I stay here. Or I can be, pick whatever it happens to be. We set out these black and white choices for ourselves. Finesse is all in the gray. Diplomacy, leadership is all about the combinations. So think about it this way. If you're, if you need to give constructive feedback to somebody at work, maybe the person you need to give constructive feedback to is somebody who's really sensitive, who's a little concerned about their performance. They know bonuses are coming up at the end of the year. There's, they took some heat for something previously, so they're a little on edge right now. Or maybe the person that you are talking to has the feeling like, I don't care, just give it to me straight. If I need to fix it, I'll fix it. I don't care. I'll do it. Just effing tell me. So those two people might be on the same team, but you need to give that same critical feedback to those two people in very different ways for them to be able to receive it. Yes. And it's how you give that feedback that changes everything, because you don't want to crush the one guy's soul, and you don't want to have the other guy feel like, what, are you afraid to tell me? You're my boss. If I made a mistake, tell me, I'll fix it. Pull up your big boy pants and let's just move on. I got other stuff to do. Stop hemming and hawing.
Quit beating around the bush.
Right. So neither is right. It's just a matter of, if you are the boss, you need to be able to address both in ways that does two things. Because diplomacy or tact is the strategic ability to balance two things. It's the ability to honor the integrity of the relationship and honor the integrity of the message. So can you be clear, so it's unambiguous what needs to happen and why, and still not have this person feel like you're either a total wimp or a total sledgehammer of a human being? So if you can do that both, or a shorter version is, the tact is the ability to make a point without making an enemy.
You're Italian. I think the term is al dente. Which can be applied to personality type.
I've never been before. That's
tender but firm. Yeah, that's the art of dancing on that tightrope between. I've heard it applied in this context.
Diplomacy is al dente. Okay.
Yeah. If you're an al dente person, you're tender but firm, right? And you're able to be truthful, short of being blunt. You're still kind of nice about it. Not being Mr. Nice Guy, but you're at least still likable after you drop the hammer.
Yes. Yeah. And they may not like what your ultimate message is, but they don't feel disrespected as a human by hearing it. And I think that's important. They've saved face. They don't feel like they're ashamed to come in and show you their face tomorrow, or they don't hate you as a result and call you, to borrow a term from you, the douche who they have to report to every day.
Hey, I coined the term douche myself. What can I say? Yeah.
Take a playbook from somebody's rule, right? So in this podcast, I can give this information, and I talk about this stuff on a lot of different podcasts. I think I can safely say that in the hundreds of shows I've been on, not even including the hundreds of shows of my own that I've run, this would be officially the first time I've ever used the word douche. But your audience,
what, though?
And that's okay.
It's a huge faux pas to be a douchebag.
It is.
If you want to talk like a leader.
Yes.
It's very counterproductive. It will have the exact opposite effect you're hoping it'll have, which really reflects on your judgment, your wisdom level, all those things that contribute to you looking like a leader.
Yep.
Talk to me about elocution, pronunciation, the cadence with which you use your words, the tone and your body language, even your facial semiotics.
Sure.
I think that all...
It's a lot of big words in that question, Scott.
Well, I have to consider who I'm dealing with and who my audience is. I'm talking to you in terms you can easily understand.
Use words like elocution. I think about my audience and I end up saying douche.
See what I did there? All right. No, I'm actually being serious. I'm matching your energy, which I think is a hallmark of what you're talking about also. And you are smart and you love to banter in these ways. So I'm meeting you where you're coming from.
And I'm a Jersey Italian, so you got to try a lot harder than that to offend me.
Well, I'm unoffendable.
Not that it's a challenge, but it's
right.
We're safely in the gray.
Yeah, I feel like you and I go way back at this point, so what the heck? But I think a lot of times guys lack the self-awareness, and we're talking to a male audience. They lack the self-awareness to realize how they're coming off. But, do a few of these video podcasts and watch yourself post-production, and you're going to learn a lot of lessons real quick like. And
I recommend that for all my clients, by the way, is that they do little mini video recordings of themselves on their phone, because I can't coach you until you see and hear what I see and hear. Otherwise, I know what you actually said and how it actually sounded and looked. You know what you meant. I guarantee those are not the same movies. And if you don't believe me, ask your mother, ask your siblings, ask whoever. They'll tell you the truth about that.
Or just compare CNN.com to FoxNews.com and you realize you can have two different movies really quickly.
Well, those are a whole different level of the D word again. So I'll stop saying it out loud, but
all the above,
talented
right?
In that space.
Well, that's wonderful. So what tips would you give these guys if they wanted to escalate their level of coming off like a leader, maybe help escalate themselves up the corporate ladder, or, in whatever their career is, this is going to be beneficial. I can't imagine any career where it wouldn't be, even if you're a classroom teacher, or professor, or especially in the military, it's kind of trained in, it's baked into the training.
Yes. Look, executive presence, leadership presence, command presence, there's all different terms for it. And I think what's important, the one little nuance there is notice command, if we're going to go with that military angle of it, the command presence, there is a massive difference between commanding respect and demanding respect.
For sure.
Yeah. Right? If you have to demand respect, you will never command it.
Yeah, and you're probably not really being respected.
No, you're not, exactly, because that's why you have to demand it in the first place. But it's something about how you do an awful lot of things, frankly, that have diminished people's respect for you. So you need to earn it again. But so back to your original question, let's start with a key question that I often get, which is more important, what you say or how you say it, right? And the answer is neither, as far as an either or. That goes back to the false binaries that we set up. What's most important is that they integrate seamlessly. What you say and how you say it have to match. Because if they don't gel, your instinct, the listener's going, something's weird.
It's
and
creepy.
There's a lack of trust. It seems disingenuous. Yeah, it's just off. And when something in your gut feels off, it doesn't matter that your brain's going, well, I understand the words, but your gut's going, yeah, but I'm not buying it. So on things like, even, when we started the show today, you welcomed me on it. And, I'm glad to be here. I love talking to you the first time around, glad to have the second opportunity. But if I had said to you, yeah, Scott, glad to be here too. Thanks for inviting me back.
There's entire comedy movies written around that whole schematic.
Sure. But the words that I said are perfectly nice, on paper, their
energy doesn't match.
With it, but the energy doesn't match. The energy completely undermines the credibility of that message. Now, that being said, it's not just in that case, sure, it's the way you said it that screwed things up, but it works the other way too. If I'm giving you feedback on this and, I said to you, Scott, I mean, thanks for the invitation. I mean, I think you're a douche, but, it's all good. You'd be like, what the that's not, I mean, I know we used that word on the show, but
thank you. I think
was not, it's like, but I said it nicely. I was smiling when I said it. So isn't it more important how you say it more than what you say? No, because what you say is the foundation of the message. If you do construction, the foundation of your house must be solid first. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what you build on it. What you build on the foundation is the delivery. So you got to have both structures strong. Important. You have to choose your words carefully, not being too technically detailed, not talking over people's heads, not being insulting and calling them names, not being, whatever it is. And your delivery has to be appropriate for the audience and for the message and for the context at the same time. When you can find that match, that's where your leadership image is naturally elevated. That's where you command the room and you command respect.
I think that was an extremely well articulated version of X% of communication is nonverbal.
Yes. And so there's a really bastardized stat out there
Yeah,
about,
right.
well, 55% of
80%,
communication, 30,
99%.
whatever percent. So it's, again, those numbers, if you ever hear like 7% of all communication was words and everything else is non. There's a study from the 1960s that was like this big, this itty bitty little study, and it was so narrow. That's in the moment, the number they came up with. It is not translatable to the rest of the world. What the big takeaway from that study was is exactly what I just said. When what you say doesn't match how you say it, your credibility is shot. That's the takeaway.
Yeah.
From that. But
That's exactly right.
You do need to have both solid what and solid how. Good words and good voice and body language.
Well, we've already alluded to watching oneself on video or listening to oneself on audio. If you take away the video component of it, which is ironic for me to say because we're actually adding the video component of this podcast, even as I'm suggesting otherwise. But watching yourself talk is different than simply listening to yourself talk, because you'll pick up a lot more. It's kind of like a blind person's sense of hearing is heightened. You'll give yourself your own window into that, which is probably a weird analogy. But I follow exactly what you're saying. I also think a lot of guys probably should slow down, especially if they come from where we come from, the East Coast. Entire companies have gone bankrupt because they hired their entire inside sales force from Boston. And as soon as they started talking to Ohio and Arizona, these guys were like, I don't trust these people. Click, You have to have a lot of self-awareness. So all of that is very true, very real. And I'm so glad you articulated it. Have you ever met someone who, while you're talking to them, you feel stupid? Like you don't know how to talk, or like you're not very clear, but really you get back and you say to someone you trust, have you ever talked to that person? I felt like I had really awkward social skills talking to that person. Like I'd lost them all. They had just all flown away from me after all these years. And the person says to you, no, it's not you, it's them. Did you know someone like that?
Every now and then you encounter somebody, somebody who lacks social cues or just is a total poker face, and you can't tell if they're hearing you, understanding you, think you're nuts, are looking for the Acme trapdoor button so that the floor opens under you to make you go away. Every now and then there's somebody who just, you can't.
I'm not as quick as a roadrunner, so sometimes I get caught flat-footed there. But yeah, it seems like there are these people out there who, if you have a conversation with them, everything is a non sequitur that comes back. Like, where are we going with this conversation? Like, I was talking about oranges and you're talking about apples in response as if we were always talking about apples. I don't feel too smart or cared for here in this conversation. And I've noticed those people are almost never leaders.
It is definitely, or if they are, it's not on a healthy team.
A very confused team.
Yeah, or frustrated because they don't frequently feel heard.
Well, I think this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm glad we finally had it. And what I want to do, Dr. Laura Cicola, is send these guys, first of all, to mountaintop.podcast.com/Amazon, where they'll find your book right at the top of the storefront there. It's a dedicated storefront with all the books from all the authors that I've had on. And yeah, you're welcome. And you guys who are listening to this show within a few days of it being released, you're going to find that book right at the top. And once again, it's called Speaking to Influence, Mastering Your Leadership Voice. And you know that Laura's very smart, and so you're probably already extrapolating that information to infer that she is also an excellent writer as well.
I try to make it conversational. It's the first main book that I wrote that was absolutely not intended for an academic audience. I actually felt a little dirty doing it because there weren't footnotes and biographies and all sorts of stuff on every other page. It was rather liberating, as a matter of fact. But lots of
good, because we don't want to read all those erudite sounding
did I.
books.
So it's a lot of stories, anecdotes from clients, from my relationship with my husband, with my kids, with whatever else. Because the principles apply whether it's at work or at home, social or professional. It's just, again, a matter of how they apply. What are the nuanced details, and how do you need to address each person individually?
Also, I want to send guys to mountaintoppodcast.com/Cicola, Sicola. which I'm sure you get this all the time. C-Cola.
I do
It
get that
happens,
one
doesn't
every
it? It's a
now and
thing.
then. I'll tell people, they'll say, is that how you pronounce it? Cola? It's like, yeah, it's like Pepsi Cola without the pep. I'm the pep.
Hey, that's even better than the cough drop gig. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, right. You could do the Pepsi challenge.
You can do my challenge.
Make a game show.
Well, there is
Yeah.
a blind spot challenge in the book, every chapter. So the great part is what I did was I took everything that I train, everything I coach, and I put it into this book with the idea being that if you actually went through it chapter by chapter, at the end of each chapter, there's a little challenge, exercise, recording, analysis, whatever
Good.
it is, so that
That's
it's like
great.
I was coaching you myself. Just do it, and by the time you get to the end, I guarantee you'll have at least one of these moments where you're going, oh, that's why they weren't so thrilled with me afterwards, or that's why they're not giving me the response that I'm looking for. Oh, okay, note to self, because I can't coach you again till you see and hear what I see and hear, and this is a way to make sure that we both are watching the same movie.
Well, anybody who's ever done Salesforce.com training in the business world, that's exactly how they do it. They give you something that's really incredibly tedious and draining, but they're trying to make it sound fun, and they give you 2 questions at the end just to make sure your reading comprehension is spot on. Then, boom, you got a badge. On to the next one. Remember that?
I had never had to do that, so I will take your word for it.
Oh, 50% of my audience is going, yeah, thank you for bringing that one up. That's
Now they're
a
going to be
painful
twitching
memory.
for the next.
Right. No, because they know how to communicate like a leader. There's no twitching in leadership.
There's no twitching in leadership, at least not in public.
Right. Okay. So when men go to, you guys listening or watching, go to mountaintoppodcast.com/C-Cola or Pepsi Cola without the pep. This product placement there. You're welcome, guys.
They really should send us royalties.
PepsiCo. Yeah, right. What are they going to find when they get to your website?
My website is laurasocola.com, and they will find
You're 2/3 of the way there already.
exactly.
Yeah.
So they'll find all sorts of resources, lots of videos, lots of blogs and articles with all these kinds of tips and stories. And there are resources in addition to the book if they're looking for something like video or audio programs to help step them through different things. Tons of information there that would love to hear from anybody. You can also reach out on LinkedIn.
Right. Your life is an open book.
Quite literally.
And
Look at this. There you go.
Hopefully guys will open your book and read about you and your life.
And enhance their own life.
Right. Exactly. That's the most important part. Heck with us. It's all about them.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. Laura, thank you so much for returning. It was fun to have you on the first time. I would argue this has been even a more fun show, and I certainly appreciate you being on.
It was a great opportunity, Scott. I always enjoy the conversation.
Absolutely. And gentlemen, be sure to go to Mountaintop Podcast and give some love to mountaintoppodcast.com, that is, and give some love to our sponsors, Jocko Willink's Company Origin in Maine, the Keyport, and the guys at Hero Soap. When you use the coupon code Mountain10, you'll get 10% off your order no matter which one of our fine longtime sponsors you do business with. And guys, check it out. Some of you need to get on the phone and call me. What you see is what you get. You know, Scott McKay is written on my passport. I'm not playing a fictional character here. I mean, if I was, I'd be doing a really bad job, wouldn't I, Laura?
Depends on the intention.
I don't want to. Right, exactly. Or also really good job because I come off so authentic, one or the other. But fortunately for everybody involved, we don't even have to worry about that because I just am who I am. And when you get on the phone with me, having scheduled that time at mountaintoppodcast.com, you're going to realize we can talk about what you got going on. If you have ideas for the show, tell me what you think about the video version. Maybe some of you went straight back to the audio. Don't know. Sounds like that to me, this was a little more fun, a little more humor came out on video. I think this will be a good trend. But whatever's on your guys' mind, especially when it comes to you guys getting better relating to women in your life and maybe getting back out there after a divorce or something like that. Hope you'll get on the schedule. Talk to me for 25, 30 minutes for free at mountaintoppodcast.com. Lots of other goodies there for you as well. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.